Hi, I'm Amy Lewin, calling this meeting to order 4 minutes ago. And for the record and the recording, we just approved our minutes as submitted by JJ Hellman, our secretary. And we are moving quickly through the agenda and basic board business as we wait for our principal to join us this fine and beautiful spring evening. So with that, if the treasurers are feeling comfortable, I'd like to invite them to share a treasurer's report. Dan, do you feel ready to and prepared to do that now?
Sure. Okay. I'm not sure if Nicole is here with us yet, but this is the high-level view of our as of close of business February 28th kind of profit loss statement. And the bottom line here, I don't know if I can see this, is that our got this. There we are. Okay. Sorry about that. Income year to date is 27,000, I think. Let's see, that's not right. I need to go to the next page. Bear with me, folks. Oops, this thing has really gotten out of control. Okay. Now I have to move this down. Okay, there we are. I'm sorry. Total income to date is $26,242 and expenses are 37. Is that it? $37,000. We're still projecting a net surplus at the end of the year for our total cash balance of around $18.5 million. And I will just
for a correction, we're going to go with 18,500, correct?
Oh, did I say million? I wish. Yeah, I'm thinking about work and not here. And then thank you, Amy. If I can share this one, new share. Okay. And I should be sharing our graphic here. Is that what I'm sharing now?
That's correct.
Okay. And you can see where we are to date, budget versus actual. We're a little over 50% of our revenue target has been raised, and we have spent a little under 50% of our target for programmatic expenses. So we're still projecting total spending of $60,000. I got the units right this time, and total revenue of or fundraising of about 31,000. There was a question, I think Colette asked about the status of our senior or our graduation party fundraising. And I did want to let people know that as of today, we've raised just a little under $1,100 in addition to what we already committed in our last meeting for PTA funding. So this is the Give Lively campaign has so far raised around $1,100. So that would be added to, I think our target was, we were kind of almost guaranteeing about $15,000 available. So that would boost that up to around 16 as of today. And I don't know, Nicole, are you on the line? Okay.
Because we did start a little bit earlier, my apologies to Nicole, our co-treasurer here. Just for those just joining us, we decided to go right into board business, but we'll amend agenda as we go forward. So Dan, thank you for this. Anything you'd like to add for the treasurer's report?
No, I think that's our treasurer's report for March.
Very good. Thank you again for your continued due diligence. You and Nicole are amazing volunteers on behalf of the PTA, and now in service for an entire calendar year. So 12 months, thank you. Can't say that enough. This kind of service takes diligence, and folks, we've got it with these two volunteers. Are there any questions for Dan and or Nicole, who I believe will probably be joining us shortly. And my apologies that she missed the treasurer's report. Any questions for our treasurers before we move back up to the top of the agenda, our principal's report?
Okay, thank you, Amy.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Well, welcome, Principal Watkins. It's good to see you. I'm your host this fine evening, and we just decided to dive in and then come on back to the top when you were with us. So we're glad to see you. The floor is yours. How's it going?
Oh, it almost feels like a loaded question there, Amy, to be honest. And I apologize. Actually, I was on the phone. So I hope everyone's had an opportunity to read the communication that I sent out about the vandalism that occurred at our school on this past weekend. I want to emphasize again that this is an active police investigation. In fact, the Portland Police Bureau has also referred it to the FBI. So it's being taken very seriously. And so it also means that I know that the community craves some details. There's a sense of wanting to have closure, but quite frankly, there's information that I cannot share. And as you have seen, when I communicate to the community, it can become the subject of media interest. And so you certainly saw that media coverage on Monday, and all of that coverage, just to let you know, came directly from the email that I had sent to the community. I also want to let you know that same email was sent to staff, and that same email at the same time was sent to students. And then the next day, during second period, we had put together it wasn't exactly a lesson, but a common message to be shared with all of the second period classes that was based on the letter that I had sent out to the community and to students, so that everyone is hearing the same message. Since that time, I've had the opportunity to meet with our parent equity group on Monday evening, as well as meeting with our Student Equity Council on Tuesday, and again, meeting with the Student Equity Council today during Flex. We've been working with our Jewish Student Union, and I want to say that the conversations that we've been having with students have been very powerful, and it is my hope to be able to send some kind of update to the community Friday before we go away to spring break. Just know that we're planning some additional actions as a community, but I'm being very thoughtful about listening to our Jewish Student Union and the things that they want to do. And I'm telling you, the students at Cleveland High School are amazing. To sit in a room with those students and have them talk about the power of education and how they are taking on, how they want to be part of the change. I know I'm getting teary-eyed. It's been kind of a teary week. It is amazing. And so really they want to center our response to education and for all of us, to be better. I think you're going to hear more information as we're planning different activities. Center not so much on reaction, but really centering our values as a community, right? And I think that's really important, that we're standing together in solidarity, and we're celebrating who we are. And so you can expect there'll be more things we'll be talking about after spring break. I had said to the community in one of my last principal updates before updating about this horrific event, that I had planned a celebratory email, just to kind of, don't want to leave groups out. There's just so many fantastic things that are happening at our school. But I'm going to be honest, I'm going to send that out after spring break. I am gathering feedback from all our different groups and things that they've been able to accomplish. And I really want to celebrate our students and do that in an authentic way. So I plan on sending that out after spring break. So on Friday, my anticipation is I'll send an update to the community that talks about this incident, just to give an update. And also to share, to be honest with you, some guidance and resources around drug use, so that we can wrap around our youth, during, times of transition and change are difficult. They're difficult for adults. So I hope we can imagine how difficult they are for our students, right? And so we're navigating, the change to the policy at the school around wearing masks. And then we had this incident that happened. And it feels unsettling. But what gives me hope, again, is just listening to our students, and just so thankful that the students are talking to us, really talking to us and telling us. And I always say, it's like they know what they need and they know what they want. We just need to listen to them, right? And so that's a big process of what I do as a principal, is really listen to the students at Cleveland High School, listen to the staff at Cleveland High School, so that in community we can be better, right? And so, those are, so, and I'm going to say, there's some work that we need to do and wrap around I always say, we need to love them. We need to wrap ourselves around them now, right? We're going to go on break. And sometimes it's, we're going on break, but also a break away from school can be isolating for some students, right? And so a lot of my messaging will be around that in this update that I'm going to send on Friday. I saw JJ earlier today. And I said, I don't know how perky I'm going to be at this meeting. She said it was okay for me to keep it short because she's the one that takes the notes. But it's just been a pleasure to really start to get to know people and work with everyone. I did want to, I think, and I will want to take questions, please. So don't mean I'm not gonna run out of here. Okay. But I just want to give also a short update about staffing, which is the process by which we hear the staff that we're going to have next year at the school year. It's a process that we had finished up at the end of February. The projected enrollment for Cleveland High School is really fairly stable, a small growth from this current year. And our FTE, which is full-time equivalent, is really based on our enrollment, right? And we work with PSU demographers to take a look at what that projection is. And so when it comes to the number of staff for Cleveland High School, we were fairly, what I'm going to say is we were fairly flat. That is, we're only projected to have 15 more students than we had this current year. And that projection does seem accurate. We did have a little bit of growth, but in a fraction of growth, a fraction of full-time equivalent. And I'm putting that fraction towards more support staff because there have been some cuts in support staff in the past. We're building a really strong support staff team. And so what I'm hoping then will be in place for next year is we'll have dedicated support for our athletic program, dedicated support for our IB program, which we haven't had for a couple of years. And we have good, strong support in the main office with Julie and Laura. And then we have support for the counseling center, support for attendance, and support for student data. And all, I'm going to say our support, I'm just going to say it because it's the truth. We had the best support staff in Portland Public Schools. I'm just going to say that. They are a wonderful team. They're student-centered. They really know their job. They work together so well, and it was a pleasure to celebrate them last week, which was the classified staff appreciation. And it was, and thank you so much. The lunch, they loved the lunch. I'm gonna tell you, the lunch, super popular. You know, I thought my handwritten message to them on the whiteboard was going to be the draw, but no, it wasn't. It was, but no, I did. I decorated my office for them. There were flowers, got some dessert for them and things. And then there was a wonderful grill, and they came through and had lunch. And they felt so appreciated. And thank you so much for stepping up. Feels like in such short notice. And I told Danielle, I said, we need to get our appreciation game together. Because we do just have amazing staff. So I'm happy to be able to, I think, get a nice support staff structure in place for us next year that I hope will be very stable. And then our teachers, then we have all of our teachers in place. We do have a resignation and a retirement. So we have some postings, that means hiring, and that is because we have some teachers moving on. And so we're replacing those teachers, but we don't have any like growth in our teaching staff. But I just kind of feel a little bit of a change in the air that in a positive, and I'm going to say in a positive way, as we're coming together as a learning community, knowing that we're not having cuts in FTE. There's going to be stability in the administration team. Yes, I'm here next year. I am the principal of Cleveland High School next year. And I'm also going to say the entire vice principal team is on board. And I can't tell you how ecstatic I am about that. This is a talented group of educators dedicated to students and the staff. And it's a pleasure to work with them. And so I think things are looking, things are looking really good for us. And, I know we're going through a hard time, but when you have a strong community, right, then you're able to respond, right? You're able to be together, to become, to really come out on the other side and be stronger and be better. And that's what I see happening at Cleveland High School. And I can't appreciate your support enough, not only financially, but, having meetings, informing parents. Yes, I promise I'm going to do we're going to do a push to get teachers to join the PTA. We'll do that also after spring break, because I think that's an important partnership to have in the organization. And so thank you again. And it's, you know what, it really is always my pleasure to come to these meetings. So that's it. JJ, I'm done.
Principal Watkins, thank you so much for the well-rounded update. And thank you for your service. I, as someone who's been a volunteer on this PTA for now more than 3 years, having you in the leadership role has been extraordinary for Cleveland. So thank you. Yeah. And
I just wanted to add to Principal Watkins that, the communication that you sent out was just wonderful about this just, horrifying event. My son, Jeremiah Dunkley, is doing driver's ed now. So he's on Sundays. So he was there Sunday. And when when his father came to pick him up,
right, you
were there. I think it had recently happened.
Yes.
And, it made for quite some conversation. And it's a little bit horrifying. We saw all of this, Asian hatred with COVID and all of this. So sometimes you feel like, our kids are numb and just tragically kind of used to seeing this, just sort of some horrifying things said to one another. But I think when it hit so close to home, it was a real, real wake up call, and just a chance to talk about how this is, not who we are, not who the community is. And I just wanted to commend you for the wonderful job you did communicating what had happened.
As you may or may not know, I also live in the neighborhood. So it was a parent that alerted me. I was alerted by email and received the first image. And maybe you don't know this, I ride a bicycle to work. Well, I was on that bicycle as quickly as I could be after I called district leadership to go to the school. And yes, I remember seeing his, and he had his window rolled down, and I said, "I'm the principal of the school." He goes, I know. I said, and I want to also say that the staff and facilities, they were so responsive. And that was really, I want to say, I was on the phone actually with Margaret Calvert, who's the assistant superintendent. And I said, I said, Margaret, I don't know how to get a hold of facilities. I need to get this off my school. Right. And then I have to say, at one point, the person who's like the expert at cleaning this up had to drive quite a ways. So I said, well, let me see what I can do. So I'm running around, I'm inside the school. I'm running around for like cleaner and solution to try to clean at least the hate symbol off, right? And so then Frank Levitt, who's the head of facilities for Portland Public Schools, he called me and I said, so Frank, is it going to be a problem if I'm trying to clean this off? And he says, Joanne, stop. He goes, the person will be there right away and we will get this done. And they did. And then the next morning, Monday morning on the track, they were out there like, I got out there around 6:30. I mean, not 6:30. I got out there around 7:30. They had been there pre-dawn. And by noon, they had it all cleaned off and ready for our students. So just really amazing work there too. And the support that we've received was amazing.
Thank you for all of that update. Are there any questions for Principal Watkins, Joanne? Or excuse me, Janet?
Oh,
Sorry.
I'm sorry. I think I accidentally
Sorry.
unmuted. I think you might have heard a
Okay.
little just the household background noise.
That's
Did you?
okay.
I don't know.
No, we didn't. I just saw you unmuted,
Okay.
so I wanted to
All
make
right.
sure
Very
I didn't
good.
skip over you.
You know what? If I can just say something from a conversation that some of us had a few days ago, that Principal Watkins, you've had quite a ride in your first, not even 2 full years in the role. And with all of the changes that have happened and the changes in school leadership and PTA volunteers and such, we're at a point where some of the traditions that we've done and the ways that PTA has sought to support the school community, we've inherited traditions and things that have happened in repeated line items and repeated just the things that have been done. But we're at a great point that we can, when there's maybe a breath to take to reflect on how PTA has been, from your estimation, and as we look to creating a next year's budget and next year's calendar of events, how we can get your reflections on that and what's really made the difference and what you would like more of, less of, any of those things. So there's of course a ton on your plate, I know, but I would love to be part of that conversation and just having a chance to think forward looking and not hopefully get ahead of things in the next year.
And to be really specific, Principal Watkins, I think for this board in particular in their diligence, it's thinking about next year, and the board has to adopt a budget in May that bridges the gap for the summer and helps, fulfill any early in the school year goals. So if there's anything that you can do to help inform this group and or meet with this group to help plan as you're doing all the things to plan future forward as
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and thank you so much for that offer. I would love to be in conversation about that. And I'm glad we have until May. I know it doesn't say, but to talk about, and I know what you mean about the kind of those natural rhythms of school. We haven't really been able to have those natural rhythms of school. We are actually going to have an assembly tomorrow, but it's a split assembly. Again, we're still maintaining 50% capacity in our spaces. And, you know, some of our students are in assembly. Where do we go? Where do we go for an assembly? Do we go to the auditorium? What? No, we don't go to the auditorium. You go to the gym. Oh, we go to the gym for an assembly, right? Right. What's it look like to do all what, you know, sort of the, you know, really that cycle of a school year and those celebrations and those hallmarks and the appreciations. What does that look like? You know, and I know when some, you know, we have lost track, but that also gives us a chance to reflect on, and I've talked about with one student group about this, those traditions and practices that uplift us and those that we need to move away from. And it gives us some reflection points, you know, points as well. So thank you for being in partnership with us.
There may be some concise clarification asks. This our treasurers in particular, and potentially Melissa may have with you to follow up in the next 6 weeks. So I would say look for an email just to be like, are we doing this? Are we doing that? Do you want this or do you want that? So that we've just got the future board, which will be a lot of new faces next year, will have a draft plan to just help guide the work as they begin their service to the community next fall.
All right. Thank you. That sounds great.
Any other questions for Principal Watkins?
I just want to say thank you. And I don't know if you know this, but Jackson, who is the Jackson Weinberg, who is the student rep for PPS and is on the school board as the student rep. He talked about the hate incident at Cleveland and named how proactive the administration was during the school board meeting last night. So from the student perspective, again, feeling that, you know, there's always more we can improve on, but the students were definitely feeling very well cared for. And he highlighted some of the things the Jewish Student Union had said as well. So I think that's important to know that our students are seeing your leadership as something they can trust and that they feel supported by you and that they can also say, here are some things we'd like to see in the future and know that you'll be receptive to that.
Yes.
And I have to tell you that my student especially really feels like that student forum where kids got to speak. They felt heard and respected. And I think that that's huge for high school students. And so I know this has been a really hard week and it'll be, a couple of more hard weeks. But I hope you know that your leadership, the quality of it is seen and felt by the community at large.
Thank you so much for that. It truly is a pleasure. You know, I will say I'm a little tired. I'm looking forward to spring break. But here's something else I'm going to say. My husband is making me a special dinner. So I'm going to go down. I'm going to go down and have some good dinner.
Enjoy. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Good to see you.
All right, everyone have a good night. Be well.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, in other times, you would think that a water main break would be the worst thing that happened in a week, right?
Except it wasn't actually a water main break, but
oh, it wasn't. Well,
it was vandalism. It was a sprinkler head.
Oh, really? Oh, that's delightful to hear.
Well, honestly, it's better than a water main break. I mean, it's unfortunate, but I would rather have it be that than a water main breaking, like in terms of the, sense of the building is whatever. Anyway.
Yeah.
They were able to stop it and get the kids back in. They didn't have to turn everything off and send everyone home because there wouldn't be toilets and things.
Yeah. Well, I do know, and I might follow up with Principal Watkins. My son Jeremiah is in carpentry for the second year, and just loves Mr. Barnes' class. But apparently, the shop got severely hit. Apparently, I think most of the tools, it turns out, are okay, but there was quite a bit of wood that was damaged. So, you know, I was thinking, and maybe this could be a PTA thing or something on the side. I mean, my husband and I would like to reach out to Mr. Barnes to see if there is any kind of replacement we could do for that. You know, I think,
you know, Lucretia, I appreciate this. And a couple things. I just want to remind everyone this meeting is being recorded for record and will be shared on YouTube.
Yep.
And I also want to share that I was just going to pause and say, are there any additions to tonight's agenda that we should discuss based on the conversation we just had from the principal? And it sounds like we should add woodshop tools conversation. So I made a note of that. Is there anything in addition that folks heard this evening that we should make extra time to dialogue for based on principal's report this evening? Okay.
Yeah.
I would just say that I guess we should just maybe make a note to ourselves to make sure we check in about this issue again next month with Principal Watkins.
Specifically on the hateful messaging on the school walls.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that note. Well, I'll pass that along to President Melissa so that we can make some time for that as well next month.
Super.
All right. I'm going to move on to the agenda unless there's any additional discussion or cool. Next on the agenda is a membership update, but I don't know that I see Carolyn in attendance this evening. So I will just share verbally. Melissa, our president who prepared the agenda this evening, shared many details, and it appears we have currently 162 members on as of February 16th, 2022. And I know in our board executive conversation this weekend, there was discussion on creative ways to recruit, including when we do Teacher Appreciation Week, having some membership sign-up forms for our staff and teachers so that they could have the option to be invited to join the PTA. So if you know anyone who's thinking about or wants to, you know, just get involved, the invitation is always open to join the PTA. Speaking of that, the next step is PTA Board Recruitment for next year, and my name is next to that. So I will give a report to this group on where we're at. Thank you to the current board members who shared and provided feedback on the Google form I sent at the end of last month's meeting. I received 8 replies from board members. And of the 8 replies, it helped me understand where we may be in needs for recruiting, specifically for our executive committee next year. And so to be specific, there's a couple of us who are quote unquote retiring from Cleveland High School at the end of the school year. Our students are moving on. And so with that, there will be a couple positions definitely open that we need to actively recruit for. And I have to say, beginning recruitment now before May is a good strategy. So put your thinking caps on anyone you may know. The key positions that we will need to recruit for next year include the president, hoping to recruit a vice president who may have some interest in succeeding into the role as president after maybe a year's practice of board service. That's always a nice transition for everyone. We are looking potentially for an assistant treasurer to support Nicole as she continues in the key treasurer role. And Dan, thank you for your service, incredible service. We'll be quote unquote retiring from this role next year. We'll also be looking for an e-news editor, potentially a secretary, ideally a fundraising chair, someone to really be proactive on the fundraising strategy, especially going into next year and thinking that hopefully we'll have normal times and or more opportunity for new traditions and a regular cadence of the school year. And so someone who's willing to take on fundraising on behalf of the PTA and in partnership with the foundation on events would be great. And then as always, it's nice to have a volunteer who likes to do social media and proactive communications to the community. So if you know anyone, those are going to be the key roles that we actively recruit for next year's board, as well as board members at large. I will be doing a couple notes out through e-news and a couple other engagement opportunities via email. And then I think it's nice, especially for those who feel comfortable getting together in person, to create that opportunity. So I'm actually going to organize a few coffee hours and happy hours in the month of April, and we'll be sending those out. They'll be in public locations for anyone who wants to join me and just hear about what it's like to be a an adult engaged in the Cleveland High School community. It has its rewards. Everyone here knows that. You wouldn't be here if you didn't. And so we just need to access our network and find those people who are curious and want to be a part of that, specifically targeting 9th and 10th grade families. So if you know anyone who is the super networker in those classes, please let me know. I would love to make time and meet with them, even if it's one-on-one. So that is my role that I will continue to endeavor for April. No promises. That's my report. Any questions?
Just a comment that I think that's a great idea, the idea of having some kind of get-togethers to, give people an opportunity to ask questions and see what this is about. So good idea, Amy.
Thank you.
I also have a comment, comment. I wonder if we don't want to send a specific invitation to the networking events that you're talking about to those names of folks who, for instance, are volunteering at the front, the welcome people, and really anyone who has actively volunteered this year, because I mean, I know our focus is on raising the numbers of actual PTA members, and I appreciate that. But if we have 162 PTA members, there are 10 of us here. That's what, like, not even 10, it's, I don't know, 7% of the PTA members are attending a meeting. And I mean, y'all, we're at home. Like, it's not a significant investment to come to the meeting. So I worry that we really need to bring more people here to also encourage them to take that extra step of joining the board. So I think maybe sending something, maybe an invite to every PTA member. I mean, I'm not trying to create a tremendous amount of work, and I'm happy to help send something out, Amy, if, but I would say if we not just the e-news, but if we purposefully invite people who are A, PTA members and identify them as such, or B, have already volunteered at something this year, that would be helpful. And I'm happy, I'm not quite retiring yet from Cleveland, but I think I am retiring from a board role because I think I want to slide out in comfort next year. And, I plan to participate, but not, I don't think, as a board member, but I'd be happy to come to any of those events to talk it up too, so if you're interested in that, from any of us to do that.
You're all invited. Let me be clear. You're all invited, and I hope that happens. So Kristen, thank you, and noted on the engagement of our current membership. Thank you.
Yeah, and just making a plug for what we did at Hosford, what we started doing, and Janet, who's here, was kind enough to host us at her lovely home. Not pushing for that this time, but we positioned kind of an end of the year, get to know the PTA, but also how to get involved. And we had a great turnout. It was low pressure. People didn't have to commit to anything, but exactly like you're saying, Kristen, people who have already raised their hand, those are the people we really want to try to go a little bit deeper with. So, I'd be happy. I mean, it's what a shame. Principal Watkins, what a beautiful sharing of her approach and her experience. Everybody should be hearing that, not just 4% of us. So I definitely I would be happy to help with something like that as well.
And I'll just follow up and throw out an idea that perhaps it might be worthwhile considering actually doing an in-person meeting next month at the school as an opportunity to kind of achieve some of the things that I'm hearing about, kind of outreach. It also might be kind of timely because I think our spring fundraiser is scheduled for April 21st. So it'll be an opportunity to further promote that. I know it's a lot of work and there's not a lot of time, but maybe that's something that, coming out of this meeting, we might want to smoke out a little bit here.
Question based on that comment. Does anyone know if the PTA filed a CUB schedule for this year with the assumption that we may be in person more often? If not, I can ask Melissa directly.
I feel like I did, but I could be getting it confused with pygmy CUBs. But
Okay.
There was CUB, because with the hybrid meetings, even this year, some of it was done, right? Some of the people were in person.
Yeah, I think we would have had to have that for that. So I know they pulled a bunch of the CUBs at one point. So
it might just mean double checking with the school and making sure that it's still active. It sounds like I'm hearing
find that easily.
I'm hearing consensus that I'd be happy to pass along to Melissa that meeting in person in April is of interest to this board. I'm seeing nods. Anything we should be aware of or considering on that regard? Okay, I'm going to pass that along to Melissa. Thank you all.
And it might be worth, like, I don't know, just doing some extra, there'll be treats. And I mean, I'm happy to bake some brownie. Like, you know, I mean, I think it might be nice to, like, we're coming back and we want you to join us. And if you've never been to a PTA meeting, this is going to be the most fun of a PTA meeting that anyone has had since 2020. I don't know. I'm not saying we're not having a great time right now, but you know, just for marketing's sake.
Yeah, and I think, Janet, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, I think we even did ours as like a PTA happy hour, just come meet, you know, other parents. It wasn't a big push on like, and we're going to rope you into like anything that we can. It was sort of a, you know, meet and greet kind of fun thing. So.
Yeah, I think that's probably a better way to get people in, and then you lure them into the, hey, you want to be on the PTA? Like do it at like Corkscrew or something like that. I mean, it doesn't have to be in Selwood, but just do something like that, like a, you know, a parent night or something like that. It's a little bit more, I don't know, a little bit more fun.
Yep.
All right, folks, I guarantee I'm going to plan 2 fun nights and we'll work on an in-person PTA, and then we'll see where we're at. With some direct engagement of our current membership. So thank you for the help in the dialogue there. And JJ, yes.
Did you see that we filled out, based on what's in the Google Drive, Cubs for September, October, November, January, February, and March? They were not available for selection in the online calendar for April, May, and June. So we probably want to get on that right away.
Do you have access, JJ, to file a CUB request for April and May? Or is it something?
Yeah, I think I can do that.
Okay.
Yeah,
thank you. That would be fantastic. 3rd Wednesdays in April and May. And we'll take the rest from there. Thank you.
And for the May, if we want to do an in-person volunteer recruiting, could we start it either 30 minutes or 45 minutes or 60 minutes early and have an in-person volunteer? That's what we've done in the past.
Good comment. So a recommendation of a CUB for a 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. on the 3rd Wednesday in May. Lots of good thoughts. Thank you all. We're going to move on to the volunteer report. And I see Christy and Lucretia. The floor is yours.
Hi. I'll go first. Okay. Hi, everybody. So volunteers, let's see. Campus greeters. We always need campus greeters. We have about 5 or 6 people volunteering consistently, which is awesome, but we always need more. Julie and Laura tell us like weekly how much of a difference these campus greeters make. So we really want to push that because it's helping them a lot. E-News seems to be the best way to recruit because every Monday, like an hour or 2 after E-News goes out, we get a whole bunch of signups. So it's awesome. What else? Last week was the Rose Festival tea. It went really well. Lorena did an awesome job. It was beautiful. Everyone had fun. I think it was a total success. And yeah, we have teacher appreciation coming up. I think Lucretia is gonna talk about one.
Yeah, and Amy, I did notice that in the unfinished new business section, there is a line for the staff and volunteer appreciation. So I don't want to go sideways here, taking us too much, but I think as you heard Principal Watkins say, Danielle had alerted us to the Counselor Appreciation Week, and that was so great. And Rosemary, who isn't here, Christy, Rosemary, and I just, just sort of brought stuff every day, just fun things, and then did a lunch on the last day. We were happy.
And Robin, sorry, just
and Robin. Oh my God, Robin, I'm so sorry. Thank you. I apologize.
That's okay.
All these appreciations are melding into one, and then I think the office staff saw how wonderful the Counselor Appreciation was and alerted us to the classified staff. I'm sorry, it's classified, right? I mean, I can never remember. Exempted.
Classified and non-representative.
Yeah, okay. So we felt, it was a little bit short notice to get something as elaborate as that into place, but we did get a lunch for them on the Friday. As it turns out, we were debating with Nicole, with Danielle, whether it should be Thursday or Friday. Thank goodness it was Friday, not Thursday, when the whole sprinkler thing happened. So the question is, originally when Christy and I were accounting for all of the volunteer needs throughout the year, one of the big ones in May was the teacher appreciation, which in sort of both of our experiences was, you put something out there, parents volunteer to bring in certain dishes. I don't know, maybe I'm stuck in like the middle school model, whatever. There have been a couple of different conflicting, a little bit, I guess last year, maybe it was an all staff appreciation. There is the opportunity to put it all in as one. We have no dog in the fight. What our main objective is here is to make teacher appreciation work really well by putting something out there based on what we've historically done. If you want to do something every day, or people just kind of, volunteer to bring things for a lunch on Friday. I think also what Christy and I at the same time really want to make sure to do is for next year, institutionalize our appreciation strategy. Mark Twain, no good deed goes unpunished, right? Who knows what other appreciation deeds we're going to hear about, but I think we do have at least these captured. And I do think I for one, I think, Kristen, Rosemary, Christy, you heard Principal Watkins mention it. To me, it's not especially many hands make light work with people, contributing different things. These gestures are so hugely appreciated. It meant the world to the counselors. I think this year was the first time it had taken place. Just the one lunch that we did on that Friday. So we're just looking for a little bit of guidance. Christy and I have different experiences at the elementary and middle school levels. We don't want to muck with any tradition and set expectations too high or anything, but it would be really nice to get something in place. We had, I think, what, Christy, 14 people raise their hands on the beginning of the year survey just for the teacher appreciation. They wanted to be a part of that.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people.
I think that was one of the people knew that's what they wanted to do. So with that said, now that we've appreciated these other groups of the staff, I think that we definitely have at least a target group for teacher appreciation. I think the question is, is there sort of a consensus around doing just a lunch? Is it something that we want to do every day of the week? We don't really have a lot of experience with it. So there you go.
Lucretia and Christy, thank you, first of all, for all of the appreciation weeks and days you've provided ad hoc this year. Amazing. And recruiting for those volunteers and finding people who want to do this. Contextually, a lot of people like to do the one-off task, the one time, this is my thing, let me go run with it. And I will tell you, past teacher appreciation leaders have included some extraordinarily creative individuals who go out and get donations from businesses. They do an everyday if they can, And or they do a Wednesday breakfast potluck and a Friday lunch potluck. It just depends. The last 3.5 years I've been a part of Cleveland High School, I've seen it all. So this is an extraordinary opportunity for a volunteer who would like to take that on. And it sounds like you have 14 volunteers they could lead into something really meaningful. Do you need any clarity from the board to go find your leader volunteer to take it on?
I don't, I mean, I think we can reach out to get, get a clearer sense now that the date is approaching. People might have thought like, oh, that sounds good in September, but now it's, April, and they're like, yeah, never mind. But we also do know, and maybe Dan, you could help us with this question. There is a $1,500 budget line item for staff and volunteer appreciation, which was also a little bit of an area of confusion. And again, Amy, I'm very sensitive. This might be a side conversation. We don't need to.
Let's get it done. Let's be efficient.
Right.
So you're trying to know your budget for teacher appreciation.
Yeah, staff and volunteer to me. I mean, I don't know. Great to have a volunteer appreciation thing. I don't really feel that that's essential. We wouldn't really be signing up for that.
So the question is, what's my budget for the first week of May?
Yeah, and I think we talked about that kind of on the weekend, and I at least my sense, Amy, was that pretty much the consensus is that money really should be focused on teacher appreciation, right, and not PTA volunteers. So is that kind of your understanding also, Amy?
The executive board discussion we had, it was trying to find clarity in that space, and we all seem to agree that though appreciation was held as a line item for whatever we might need, there seemed to be consensus focusing on Teacher Appreciation Week would be good. Doesn't mean that we recommend spending all $1,500. I think past Teacher Appreciation Weeks, we've hovered between $600 and $800 and been fairly effective, just for context.
Well, and just saying too, in sort of the standing models that I'm sure many of us are familiar with, when you have the appreciation week and you have people sign up for, I'll bring a fruit salad or a dessert and sodas, the more you can get contributed. I mean, $1,500, that would cover the huge lunches that we got from dues and then some. Right. So I mean, maybe we can think about, and again, this I think might be for a future board meeting, but just to kind of consider it a general appreciation fund might be a nice, a nice thought.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think we want to try to get, as much as we can, with the funds we have available. And I think one thing that we talked about on Sunday was really kind of looking beyond this year and looking into next year. And we talked a little bit about that earlier with Principal Watkins about kind of like, what do we want to focus on? What programs does she want, to be having support on? But the other thing that we were also talking about is, we are, as we talked about earlier on our budget, we're spending, almost twice what we're raising this year. And that's not sustainable. So when we're looking, at spending, our budget here, we want to kind of have an eye out for, can we, do things, efficiently. So the idea of, having, a potluck or going out to the community and looking if we can, take, like Amy says, $500, $800 of our funds and leverage that some other ways. I mean, that's going to be a win for this year, but it's also going to be a win for next year.
May I make that recommendation to Lucretia and Christy? Find your teacher appreciation chair or co-chairs who want to lead that, and let them know that we have funds set aside of the general budget range of $500. Should they need more, they can connect with the treasurers and current president to navigate that. I think that might be the best next step for your group if you feel comfortable with that. Does that sound good?
Yeah,
that's yeah. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I have one other question though. Just we were talking about like previous years bringing like crock pots of food and all that. Can people do that? Is that
you may need to check with the principal secretary just to see what current district standards are, and that may help inform if further budget is needed. Just some of the things that I think they did at Hosford. I don't know. I think when we went 3.5 years ago, there was a coffee cart. There was a massage therapist, you know, with hours, and we had some volunteers who were really creative and actually donated time or had friends donate time. So those are certainly options for investment and less focused on food, but more the fun factor.
Sure.
Go forth and find your volunteer who wants to take that on and assign away.
All right, sounds good.
Great, great. And just as a rhetorical thought here, you know, be interested to hear, you know, what we ultimately decide on for next year going forward, if we want to make it one big appreciation or micro appreciations, you know, I'm
gonna ask this question back to both of you. In your experience now with the current administration, it sounds like they like the idea of multiple appreciations, and that's part of the culture they're trying to lead with.
Yes.
So it might be wise as a board to plan for that next year.
Yeah.
And if you two could help with a draft on what that outline looks like and bring that to the board for awareness and budget planning, that would be my advisement.
Absolutely. Thank you. Perfect.
That's fantastic. Yeah, it's when you get the ad hoc, it means there's a pattern. You got to find the pattern and say, okay, here's the flow. This is new leadership, new administration. This is how the culture is going to work with this. So thank you all for the extraordinary ad hoc participation, and Robin and all of you who've been like, yeah, at those moments. It's great. And clearly they appreciate it as well. All right. I'm going to move on to Weekend Warriors updates. Robin.
Hello. Sorry, my dog has been, I don't know if you were able to see that. He kept jumping up on the bed and doing all kinds of stuff. I was like, oh my gosh. But he's a puppy. So there are 3 of us that met for Weekend Warriors, I guess 2 weeks ago, and did cleanup around the school, mostly picking up trash and mowing and trimming back some plants and stuff like that. And that was great. Great to have a little bit of help. You know, we've had a Sign Up Genius link in all the e-news recently, which has been nice. And then this past weekend, we met with Coach Smith, the football coach, and there were probably like 50 people there on Saturday, cleaning up the track, doing all kinds of stuff. And it was awesome. I was like, oh my, like so many people. And so that was great. And then I got the email that the track had been vandalized and everything. And I was like, oh, because it looked so good. It looked so good. And they got out a ton of trash and then stuff that was underneath the field house, or not field house, underneath the what?
Bleachers.
Underneath the grandstands, yeah, the bleachers.
Yes,
and there was painting going on, right, Robin? They painted the media box at the top of the grandstands. It was awesome.
Yeah,
you were out there with a lawnmower.
Well, you were out there too, so it was. I mean, it really was great. I was super excited. And so we talked about doing another one like end of April or beginning of May. Just to keep the track looking good for especially all the athletes that are, you know, doing spring sports and everything. It just makes the school look good. So I'm going to talk to Coach Smith about doing that again. And then we have a couple of more just Weekend Warriors, I think 5 more scheduled for the spring, just to try to get things looking nice. And I've been in contact with Christian Sherwood's daughter, who is the head of leadership or the Key Club. And they're gonna do a Key Club day. So I'm just trying to get a date that works for their schedule. But yeah, it's nice to get out there when the weather's good.
That's a good idea coming back. And my son and I were talking and saying we really did a deep clean here, but you know, it'd be nice to come out in another 4 weeks and just kind of maintain. So great to hear that, that's kind of the way you're thinking.
Yeah. Well, in the athletic director, Kelly Cook, was out there, and there were lots of people. So it was great.
Robin, thanks for helping organize that, and fantastic to hear there's cleanups planned for the next few weeks and months ahead. So thank you for your leadership in Weekend Warriors.
Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. The next step on our agenda is student clubs and affinity group grants. Because I don't know that I see, Leslie and Nicole are not in attendance. I'm just going to read this update. There is a link that for the agenda, we can just JJ add for the record. For student clubs and affinity group grants, $5,835 was delivered. All 14 applications were approved, 6 affinity groups plus 8 student clubs. Affinity groups will split the grant award evenly among the 6 groups. Unified Sports Basketball and Cheer is on its way to being a new affinity group, and a special one-off purchase for the girls lacrosse uniforms as boosters was made because the boosters weren't unable. So those notes are in the agenda. I'm going to move on to the spring fundraiser unless there are any questions around student clubs and affinity group grants.
Just a comment that, as we're pushing for PTA involvement, those are the kinds of PTA results that should be on the marquee,
Noted, and thank you. I believe Janet did make a couple notes in our e-news edition, but good to point out. Awesome. Our spring fundraiser with the Cleveland High School Foundation is April 21st from 6:30 to 8 p.m. This will be on live via YouTube live stream. And the volunteers I know are searching for sponsors, incentives, and swag opportunities. So if you have an idea, want to make a donation, or know someone who would, please reach out to Melissa and Christina Markelis, who are helping organize this fun fundraiser for the 21st of April. The senior graduation party is June 7th from 8 to midnight. We had a great discussion as a board last month on all the things. And I just want to commend our treasurers for finding clarity when it comes to tickets and how this gets operationalized. It'll go into next year. Nothing to truly note at this moment, but I want to acknowledge that. I don't see Colette in attendance, but tickets are still continuing to be for sale. And as Dan noted, the status for Give Lively donations is at $1,100. Any questions, clarifications, or things we should be following up with Colette on? Okay, we'll move on to unfinished new business. So I'm going to move to the top, the question that was sort of the late breaking news of the last week and a half, the shop with the damage on tools and the water damage overall. And Lucretia, is there anything you'd like to bring to the board here for a discussion or something just to dialogue about?
I don't have a lot of the details. Like I said, it was sort of my son reporting in and very disturbed by it all. And then I think it would be worth trying to get details on what exactly the damage is, because perhaps there is something we can do, or as parents with kids in this class. So I don't know a lot of the details except for kind of the general the general state of affairs. I would be happy to offer to get the details.
Lucretia, I think that's actually a great idea if you feel comfortable reaching out to that teacher to see if there's any need. I will share with you, historically, we have done we used to have a GoFundMe account that we would help teachers with fundraising. And this might be a case where maybe we don't do GoFundMe because we've retired that, but consider Give Lively and the opportunity to give a donation to the shop that we could pass through to the teachers should that be needed.
Also, I don't, pending what the exact items are, he did an outreach to the community for materials and got a great donation. And I always encourage, there's nothing lost by putting a call on e-news.
No, definitely. Wait, Janet, are you saying Mr. Barnes put something out there?
Yep.
He has, not recently, but he has done that in the past.
He has done that in the past. Okay.
Yeah,
So
and he's done,
it was before COVID, but somebody
Okay.
who, I want to say it's somebody who was an architect, knew that there was like some unused material from a project that was like very high quality materials, and was great.
Great. I'd be happy to reach out to him. I mean, if there's ever a time to ask for some help, you know, let's do it here. We, you know, who knows, we might get some stuff donated, you know, I mean, you know, we've grown to be very fond of Cleveland's shop program. It's a very unique thing. The Massachusetts in me is very surprised that that is what I am so in love with about Cleveland. But you know, it's been great, and he's got I think a lot of need for some improvement down there in the shop. So why not?
Thank you for reaching out to the teacher, Lucretia. And if folks have additional comments or suggestions, please reach out to Lucretia and assist her in that. Thank you. All right. There are a few things here that I'm not sure that we need to dialogue or make time on, but I am going to go through them just in case. There's this, as just facilitator of this meeting, there's something here that I may not know. Boosters paperwork update. This is a line item on unfinished new business motions. Is there anything we should be making note of, or any updates and or planning for the near future? I have no updates on this myself.
Yeah, I have no update. Nicole might have, but she's
Okay.
tied up this evening.
Okay. So I'm going to move on. Thank you for that. To staff and volunteer appreciation lunch. We discussed this. Our amazing volunteer co-chairs are going to go find the volunteers, and they've got clarity on budget. Should they need more, they can certainly come back to the executive committee and navigate that space. Thank you. I'm going to table student leadership and the question to add $1,000 budget line for potentially April discussion as you build out the budget for next year. I think this is something that we can just table unless there's anything key that we should be discussing today in that regard. Okay. The update I do have for Heritage Bank Scholarship is my suggestion to delete that budget line. We discussed that. I have no new updates, and I should check in with our counselor to see if they had received any updates. I think with the transition of this executive from Heritage Bank into another role, it's a fair assumption to assume that this scholarship has since retired as well. Next up on the agenda is the Senior Fun Pack card. Nice conversation about this over the weekend with our executive committee, and I think it would just be smart to bring that awareness to the full group. Dan, do you feel comfortable to share the thinking on that when it comes to Senior Fun Pack card or Senior Gold card, or should we wait for Nicole for next month?
We can just touch upon it today. I mean, I think we're looking forward based upon our experience this year and some kind of, I guess, lack of clarity on gold card sales and how that was shared, and how the prom tickets or the graduation tickets and the prom tickets fit in with that. And then just the idea that we were thinking about doing, well, we have done pennants for the grads this year. Thank you, Amy. And we also have a line item in our budget, but it's unfunded for senior, for the graduation yard signs. So as we were talking about it, I think the group kind of threw out the idea of maybe changing maybe moving away from the gold card, and there is some discussion, I think, at the CHS admin level for doing that. And what we thought is perhaps just sell like a senior fun pack at the beginning of the year, and in that we would offer, you would buy it, you would get a ticket to the graduation party, you would get a ticket to the senior prom, and a yard sign and a pennant. And so we kind of, and at that point we wouldn't be searching for funding sources for some of these items, which we had to do this year. I think both on the pennants this year and on the yard signs. I think we're still struggling with what to do with the yard signs this year. So that's just something that I think we were thinking about, try to get a little bit more clarity early on funds available for some of these activities, and more transparency too. So you buy something and you know what you're getting, and we don't have to keep coming back to parents and pinging them for, a yard sign donation or other donations.
And thank you so much for sharing that with the group. I'm just going to share one piece of awareness. Traditionally, for the senior party, not all 400 classmates purchase tickets. It tends to be about 60% of the students will purchase tickets. And we have, as a PTA, been covering the costs, like additional costs. Kristen, who organized last year's party, can attest to that. Trying to find clarity around budget can be tricky. And so one of the conversations we had is, let's plan for having a 60% ticket buy and pricing the tickets of that 60% in a place that we can fulfill on this promise of a party, and allow the party chairs to go forth and organize within that space of a budget, whatever that matrix is. And I thought that was a good and practical discussion and long overdue for our board to have. Kristen, it looks like you might have a comment or.
Sorry. Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say, I even though I did that party last year and obviously it was COVID and everything was weird, I still don't understand the gold cards. I mean, I bought one for my kid. I still don't understand really what I did. So I think that makes, I'm not crazy about the name, frankly. And I think the idea of like a senior fun pack is way more just like clear. These are the things that come with it. And, but I also hope that we have an option to not just buy it in September, because I'll be honest, I think we miss people in September who are just not ready to think about May and June. Shoot, even now people aren't ready to think about May and June. So I think, maybe that's like, and I don't even know that it needs to be a different price, but I mean, I don't want to get into the weeds. Like, I just think we offer that multiple times throughout the year. So, maybe a reminder, it's not too late. This is what you get from it. And just so that people get multiple chances to do it. And, and maybe we could think about reaching out with the cap and gown stuff, because I mean, my sense is that with the senior party of yesteryear, there was just a budget and it really wasn't based on the sale of the cards. And I understand that that's not sustainable. We were obviously forking out a ton of money for that senior party. So we want to figure out like, what is our budget with the assumption that we're going to have this many seniors and 60% of them are going to buy whatever, sort of figure it out mathematically, but not have it be that we base it on the money that we get in September, because I think we want to give people longer than that to plan for May and June. Personally, I mean, I'm a planner. I'm happy to buy it in September and then I forget if I've done it or not, but I think like I don't know, I think the timing is a little swirly, and actually it's August. It's not even September. Like, it's before school starts. Like, I mean, it's really early for, I think, most people's brains to be like, I'm going to plan the senior party right now. Like, it's hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I
think that's a good point, and I think it does make sense. I think the thought was early on you kind of get a better idea of how many people are coming. We can then plan accordingly. We're not setting up a party for 300 people when 200 people come. But I agree. There's no reason to really shut it down, because I would think most people are probably going to step forward early on, and then you're going to have some stragglers. We'll see what happens with it.
I mean, Jan Watt knew exactly how many people in a typical year would come to the senior party. Like, last year was weird and we had a pretty good turnout because we hadn't had any opportunity prior to the party for the kids to see each other. But she was like, nope, with this many seniors, you're going to have this many. And and I think it's the 60%, there's yeah. And I'm not against selling the tickets early. I think selling them I love the package idea. And I think I think that's a great idea. So anyway, yeah.
Good, fantastic discussion in support of the draft plan that our treasurers will bake into what we hope will be some clarity over the summer, so that the registration team will have that clarity from the board going into registration prep this summer. I'm going to move on to the signs for the class of 2022. We are in year 3 of new ways of doing things. And just like the question of penance last month, do we do pennants for the class of 2022. There was consensus that yes, we're turning this into a tradition, maybe a fun pack element next year. This is the question of those signs that are in people's windows and or yards that celebrate the class of 2022. The price point on that, if we went with the vendor we've gone with the last 2 years, is Jostens at $5.50 a sign, assuming there's a class of 400 with a few community members in addition, maybe bumping that up to $425. The cost on that is about $2,450 plus a setup fee, which rolls it up to about $2,700 in cost. Our executive committee discussed that and wanted to just bring that for further discussion, or if anyone may have a good suggested resource for a better priced sign, with the assumption that the board may want to provide that to the class of 2022 or not this year.
I wanted to ask Kristen how many signs were left over at the end of last year that sat in your garage. Do we need to print? I mean, I think there are a lot of kids.
Well,
that
I
don't
ultimately
print
returned
signs.
them to the school, so they're no longer in my garage.
That's
But there, you would think I would have known that information. It was a fair amount. I mean, it was a box, like it was heavy. It was more than I wanted in my garage, and I could have stashed them under the ping pong table, and I did not want to. So it was a decent amount.
So for the class of 2021, we ordered 450. And it sounds like we had several left over.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be in a closet at school, I think, right? Isn't that
They would be there, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things we
Find
didn't,
out.
in the handing out of them last year, I feel like we didn't do the best job of, is we just gave every kid, every student one. And there are clearly many students who have 2 homes, and we didn't do and I think that is factored into the number that we probably should have ordered. I mean, our number when we ordered them based on the year prior. So I feel like if we had been more proactive of asking people, do you have 2 houses where you would want these signs? That there were also several twins who were like, absolutely, we don't want 2 in our, I mean, there was all sorts of, anyway, so we definitely had too many. I think it's tricky though, because it's just the last thing you don't want to have enough of, I mean, but we don't need so many left over. I could, the week after spring break, I'm still on spring break. I would be happy to go to Cleveland and try to research. I could talk to Sean Murray. He was my kind of conduit, and see how many, where they are. And I could go count how many are still sitting there.
One thing that you observed, JJ, the other day was that a big chunk of the signs is for the metal stands, and so I'm wondering, do we have a lot of those? I mean, I guess we're trying to figure out how can we do this, kind of least cost basis, and do we need to buy stands? Have we had a lot left over from last year? Do you know, Kristen?
We definitely had those left over as well. Well, who knows where my brain was. I didn't think to track that information. We definitely had leftover stands as well. I wonder if these would be different signs, but sometimes when political campaigns, they have the plastic signs that go over the metal. So,
they're more expensive, I think.
What's that?
The instead of the corrugated plastic, just the bag.
Yeah, it's like 2-sided and it's plastic. I mean, I'm not trying to make them not look nice. I'm just wondering if that's a different version, but maybe.
I think honestly, we could just give out the signs and not the supports, because a lot of people have supports, or you can just staple it to a stake from the garden store, or if people want to put it in the yard, they'll figure out a way to put it in their yard, or they'll stick it in their window. And,
so based on this discussion, it sounds like there's still seems to be some support for facilitating some sort of a signage option for the class of 2022, but need to do further exploration on, could we do it without the metal stakes? and at what amount? And I'm hearing, Kristen, based on, thank you for your offer of going to the school to see what was left over, but based on your comments, it might be one of those things where doing a 425 value point or 450 would still be worth doing, just being more sharing of the signs overall. I guess, Dan, where are we on the budget in the appetite for exploring something like this? Is it realistic? Or do we need to find a revenue stream for this particular item if we want to deliver this to the community this year?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it kind of depends upon the spring fundraiser. Right now, we've budgeted, the same level of fundraising that we had last year in the spring fundraiser. And based upon that, we're talking about somewhere around $20,000, $18,000 kind of surplus at the end of the year. And we know that, our spending is very front end loaded, especially with things like the teacher appreciation and the teacher grants. So yeah, I mean, I guess it's doable. We're certainly going to have the money this year. It's a matter of, kind of projecting out and saying, where do we want to be, at the beginning of the next academic year, as far as having resources available. So, and we did talk about, some alternative ways to maybe fund this when we were talking about this on Sunday, right? We talked about, offering it, for sale, or maybe, I think you said it worked out to about maybe $5 or $6 per sign, something like that, Amy.
$5.50.
Yeah, so if we did some fundraising and asked people to contribute $20, and maybe then we need 100 people to make a contribution, more or less, to come up with that. So
I think too that I think we would be remiss if we did not do some research on some other vendors for the printing. I know there's some history with Jostens, but that to me, I don't know, sounds like a lot of money per sign. Printers are starving for business right now because during COVID, nobody was doing any direct mail. Just suggesting it might be a good idea to put the proposal out.
So I'm wondering, is there a volunteer that we could get to kind of take on this project? I mean, it seems like it's something we want to investigate. We want to kind of move forward with doing these signs, but we don't have a lot of money. And, what are our alternatives?
Yep. And whether it be a printer donor or families donating and supporting it overall. Are there any volunteers present who are interested in taking that on, and or Christy and Lucretia, what do you think about us facilitating that ask out into the greater senior class community?
I think that's a great idea. I mean, I have one printer contact I could ask who's done some stuff for the PTA. It was back at Hosford, but certainly at least getting a couple. Christy, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. I was just saying, I think it's a good idea. Yeah. And you had said you knew someone from back. Yeah.
Someone, the DocuMart downtown, actually in my office building, printed for graduation or whatever, advancement certificates for the 8th graders for a fraction of the price. That he was so delighted to help out. So let's just shop it around.
I have a friend I can ask too who does big like signs and stuff, so not the same, but like and they're a former Cleveland family, so I'm not raising my hand for anything else, but I will talk to him over the break and let you know. But I think moving forward, I think that just needs to be part of the senior packet. Like you're just paying for. I mean, I think it's
we agree.
A parent is like, sorry.
So
is this just for this year you're asking?
Yes, to be concise, what Dan just mentioned, the fun pack would include this next year. We just didn't plan for the fun pack this year, so we're trying to bridge the gap.
But I thought you were talking big picture. Sorry. Okay.
No. This is super, super good. So I'm going to make a request that Lucretia and Kristen reach out to their graphic printers see if we can get a better price point. If you wouldn't mind following up with me by March 28th, I would appreciate it. As the pennant lady who is helping facilitate handing those out on April 21st in the morning at the school, you all are welcome to join me. I'd like to try to get signs ready by April 21st too. So the question of the printers is reduce costs, donation to Cleveland High School, and can we have 400 odd signs by April 20th? Thank you very much. And then you can follow up with me. And I think our president, Melissa, would probably be motivated to help assist in designing. So we should be good to go. I think the question is, do we have the budget? And it sounds like maybe the executive committee will just need to approve via email once we have some more clarity on local vendors. So thank you all for the participation in that.
And we'll go without the metal stands.
Put it in your window.
Fantastic.
I mean, come on, you know, we don't need to do all that. Stick it in a plant outside,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Be green.
Be green.
So
Exactly.
I'm pleased to say it's 8:30 and my agenda said we would be wrapping up with announcements at 8:13, but you all are a fantastic group. This has been fun conversation and dialogue. I have a few announcements and then I'm just going to open the floor for any community updates and or announcements from anyone in the Zoom room itself. So just a reminder, please check the emails on Monday morning for e-news. Thank you, Janet, for your continued editing of those. We are looking for an editor of e-news. It's a full list of announcements, front-loaded with a lot of PTA opportunities. Submissions for e-news are noon on Fridays. Extraordinary volunteer opportunities with our extraordinary volunteer co-chairs. Thank you for your service and helping get that out there. Stay up to date on social media, Cleveland High School PTA and Facebook, CHS Families. And you know, we would love to have donations or you become a member. Go to chspdx.org to find out more. Our next meeting will be Wednesday, April 20th, 2022, and we're going to have it at school. Any further questions, comments, or just announcements from community members present this evening?
Thank you, Amy, for hosting this today.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ailey, do you have anything you want to add before I wrap it up? Are we good? Good.
Yeah, if you have questions, ask me. If you are hearing that PBS has tons of money and we're spending it badly, I'd be happy to talk to you about that. We had a great budget session last Wednesday, which explained where all the money has gone and what it's earmarked for and why we can't just spend it on certain things. So that's always an informative session. And I'm happy to talk to you about one-time use money versus long-term money. And I also want to say that at this point, no teachers will lose their jobs. So we're cutting 83.95 teaching positions, but all of those teachers should be reassigned to other schools or other grades. So there aren't actually any layoffs, and we're actually looking at hiring about 200 new teachers. So all of those cuts will be covered by retirements and other attrition. So I think that narrative helps folks to understand that the teachers aren't being fired, but they are maybe having to move schools or change classes. Yeah, if anyone has questions about the budget or anything else, I'm happy to answer those. Robin?
How did that get so convoluted then in the news? I mean, it made it sound like the sky is falling, and I mean, where was the disconnect?
So I think for the teachers union, we do know that class sizes, when they go up, that makes teacher workload harder, right? Having 28 kids is more work than having 24. And for teachers, you know, like one of the teachers I see regularly at Grouch, she's been there for 14 years and she's going to have to move to a different building. And so that feels like a huge loss. And so while she's not being laid off, it's very uncertain, it's very sad, and it's very difficult. So I think that emotion of teachers leaving communities they've been at for a long time, the fear and stress of not knowing what grade you'll be teaching, where you'll be teaching. And then, you know, teachers are exhausted. And so thinking, oh my gosh, my workload's going to be higher next year than it is this year for some folks. Our average class sizes are actually going to be lower next year than they were in the 1920 school year. We've just had this false lower class size because of COVID. The state has held us harmless during COVID, but now we have to sort of right size. But that's why I think a lot of that emotion came out of our teachers who are exhausted.
Okay, thank you.
Well, there's also like the lowest birth rate in history, right? We're like back to like pre-war levels too. So I mean, it's kind of interesting to see what's, I don't know, who the hell would want to bring 5 kids in right to the world right now? Just saying. I mean, no offense to anyone who wants to do that, but
Look at Oregon's birth rate. It's like all of a sudden in 2016, people in Oregon stopped having babies.
yes.
And I cannot for the life of me think what maybe happened in 2016 that would have made people stop wanting to bring children into the world. And if you look at the graph of the birth rate, it's stunning. And it's not getting better. So this
right. Well, you can't, who can afford a 3-bedroom house these days? You'd have to have, if you have 5 kids, they're all sharing a bedroom, I mean, it's follow the money, right? So just saying, but.
Got a low birth rate, and you can see that, and Portland State has been projecting that. And then the gentrification, Robin, you can tell us about, I think was it you that had the little thing on Facebook, Robin, about multiple offers, and it's expensive out there. So families are being pushed further east. So we're losing enrollment because of that. And then we have a lot of families that chose to go to private school. So we have families who felt like we were too restrictive with our COVID protocols, and so went to private school because they wanted to be in school more days earlier on. And then we have some families who felt unsafe coming into school, and so are homeschooling or doing online school. So we lost families on both ends of the COVID safety spectrum. And so that's why our enrollment's down, and we don't see it coming back because of the birth rate, because of the gentrification, and because of people have found new communities in some cases. So it's going to be really, I think the next few years are going to be hard as we continue to see declines in enrollment. So we'll just all have to wait and see what happens long-term with the population in Portland.
Well, thanks for the insider intel. Yeah, it's fascinating.
And I just want to say, I know this goes on YouTube and it's public, but what I'm hearing is that the vandal is not a current PPS student, and not a current Cleveland student. I don't think they've got the person for sure, but I think they have a good idea of who it is. But that made me feel better that we know it's not a current student.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for all your updates and your continued service on behalf of all the students in the community overall. Really appreciate it.
I love being on school board. It's absolutely been horrible and really hard, but the best thing I've ever done in my life besides having my kid. It's amazing. And the high capacity leaders I get to work with at the district are incredible. I feel like I've grown so much as a person just getting to work with the superintendent, with Dr. Cheryl Proctor, with Dr. Sean Bird, some of these, Liz Large, our legal counsel, just fabulous leaders. I am not running for school board again. So if you are interested, I can't run again because of sort of my covenantal relationship with my church and the bishop. I serve at the pleasure of the bishop. So I had to ask her for a favor to let me stay in Portland for these 4 years with a guarantee. That guarantee elapses at the end of June 23. So if you're interested, I'd love to talk to you about running for school board, or if you know someone else, or if you have a friend you really don't like, send them my way and I can maybe talk them into being on school board. That's what my friends did to me.
So maybe the people who aren't ready for the commitment of the PTA board, we should send them to you, Ailey, so they can be on the school board. I think we could totally make that work.
It could be the same script that we're working on for it. Yeah. Yeah.
School board's unpaid. It's a volunteer gig. So it's, you run for the glory and all the community adoration you get.
You could just bring them to Corkscrew and just lure them in with the PTA volunteer party. So you should be there.
I'll have to check out this Corkscrew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I will get it on the calendar. It's a fun spot.
Great.
Thank you all. This has been a delight to see you all, and wish you well for your spring break. Stay well.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see you all in person in a few weeks, and this meeting is adjourned.
Awesome. Amy, great job. Thank you so much. Lovely to see everyone.
Thank you.